Okay, the regular meeting of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment for the Township of Belleville for October 1st, 2015 will now come to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Caruso.
Here.
Giuliano.
Here.
Mafucci.
Here.
Montalbano.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Sheldon.
Here.
Milano.
Here.
Del Garcia.
Here. Okay, everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
She didn't make a comment, so I had to ask. First, I have to ask this. Madam Secretary, has notice of this meeting been given in accordance with the Sunshine Law?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, notice of this meeting has been given to the press and the public in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
Has all the members got a copy of the minutes? Do you agree with the minutes?
Yes, I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion made by Mr. Caruso to accept. Do I get a second? Seconded by Mr. Milano. Clerk, call the roll.
Caruso.
Yeah.
Giuliano. Mafucci.
Here.
Montalbano.
Here.
Smith.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. Mr. Gassion, I understand that you are adjourning one of the cases on the agenda tonight?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I expected that the Calangua case would take most of the night. Therefore, I made the request for the adjournment.
Okay, so you're giving time waivers and everything, correct?
Absolutely.
So anyone in the audience that's interested in number 4 on the agenda, ZB 2015-17, 78 Rutgers Street, limited liability corporation or company, whichever it is, 236, 238 Washington Avenue. That's an applicant is proposing to construct an archery range of 4 booths in the basement of the building. That will be adjourned to Thursday, the 5th of November. There will be no further notices either in the newspaper or in the mail. Okay. I have a communication.
Mr. Chairman, is there anything else on the agenda? I have a request with regard to the agenda that is completely separate and apart for any of the cases on there.
You have something to put on the agenda?
I have a request with regard to it. We have, obviously, the agenda has backed up because a particular case, the Calangua case, has been going for a while.
Right.
I have a client, Belleville Industrial. That's the old Wallace and Tiernan property. Not on the agenda. Not on the agenda. But the
Right.
documentation's been submitted very recently. Mr. DiLorenzo obviously hasn't had a chance to put it on the agenda's been backed up. But that client has a particular problem with financing involving many pieces of property. And they need to get a decision rendered on that as early as possible. And I need to go on the record and request a special hearing date with regard to that.
Mr. Gassion,
I
let
understand
me
what
be
the answer
very
is.
nice to you, and I don't change my personality. If an application isn't on a regular agenda, you cannot ask for a special meeting.
You've answered my question.
Okay. Once it's on the regular agenda, you could ask.
I have an obligation to a client. I have to fulfill my obligation.
Yes, you did a good job. Now, back to the communication. I have a communication from the Law Department from the Township of Belleville, and it is dated September 30th, 2015 to me. I won't say I'm honorable, even though it says that. It's relation to Brighton Estates, 138 Brighton Avenue, Belleville, New Jersey, docket number ZB 2014-08. Dear Chairman Del Garcia, in response to your concerns and questions and those of the general public regarding the captioned application scheduled to be heard on October 1st, 2015, please be advised that a request has been made by counsel for the applicant that it be permitted to lease, buy, or otherwise utilize property owned by the Township of Belleville in connection with the above application. The Township is not willing to do so either at this time or any future time. The Township of Belleville objects to the hearing of any application which includes the utilization for any purpose township property without securing in advance and in writing a conveyance of its rights. Very truly yours, Thomas M. Murphy, Esquire, Township Attorney. And that has been sent to the board attorney, Mr. Rego, to you, Mr. Gassion. You should have a copy.
I do.
The mayor, council members, and Kevin M. Esposito, the interim township manager, who's also the town assessor. Now, based on that letter, and because of the continued ambiguity over the boundaries of the property, I am recommending to the board that we hire an independent surveyor to survey the property once and for all so we know what the boundaries are. So it doesn't cause any problems, and we don't have no problems with the council, we have no problems with the applicant, or with the general public. Mr. Gassion, your position on the situation?
Obviously, we had a surveyor do a survey. That survey was reviewed and basically agreed to by Mr. Hurwitz. We proceeded with the understanding that that was acceptable. This letter is a bit unique and it just came today. I don't really recall receiving a letter from the municipal attorney previously in my career with regard to a pending land use application. So I thought we had provided sufficient information and brought the surveyor here to testify with regard to that information. Obviously, I understand what the board's rights are, as you made clear to me with regard to my request for a special hearing 5 minutes ago. But we thought we had presented adequate information. The board's decision is the board's decision. But we were under the impression the case was going to be completed tonight. That was made fairly clear. And again, my surveyor had testified very reasonably, articulately as to how the survey was done. And Mr. Hurwitz certainly had no objection to that procedure and seemed to indicate he agreed with what was done. Therefore, I don't think it's a necessary step. And again, repeating myself, the board has the right to do what the board wants to do. I certainly would not insist that the hearing go forward under that scenario.
Okay.
I make a motion we hire a surveyor.
All right, now, here's the situation while we're having discussion. You can have a surveyor, we can hire a surveyor, okay? But the thing is, since the town got involved, I think we should hire, we all agree, an independent surveyor.
Yes.
So it doesn't involve the town, it doesn't involve the applicant. However, unless you want me to get surveyors and bring you a resume next month for us to pick who we want, which I know how the board is, the only way I can do it fast enough would be to hire somebody, and I'll check and see if they ever did any work for them or the town before I would use them, because I don't want no conflict of interest. That would be with anybody, even if I got a couple resumes.
Why don't you get a surveyor with resumes and go over the resumes and then hire
Mr. Milano,
You know, I think we need to be reasonable here,
because of the time.
for the time of, on both sides, okay? A. B, if you don't think that you're competent to pick a survey, you shouldn't be chairman.
Oh, thank you.
So
I
that's-
didn't say I'm not
No,
competent.
I'm saying, you know, so I'm just saying, you know,
There's another reason I said this, that's why.
my opinion is
Yes.
that if you can, you know, pick a survey that, using the criteria you just outlined, this is me only, I'm comfortable with the chairperson picking out someone that is independent, maybe consulting with Mr. Lego, that would make me comfortable.
No problem.
But, you know, to say that we gotta do interviews and all, I think that's a little out of the ordinary.
I don't even say interviews, I would just say resumes.
I'm
But what I'm
saying,
saying is if the board is satisfied with allowing me in consultation
I
with Mr.
gave
Rego picking
my, I
somebody,
gave my opinion.
I have no problem doing that. I just didn't want to overstep
No,
my
I'm fine,
authority.
that's my opinion.
Okay.
Questions?
Any other members? Yes, Mr. Montalbano.
How much time do we need for the survey? Will he be ready by the next meeting?
I would have to get him first, and then he would give me the date. Then he would have it.
So what do we
I mean,
say?
it is 30 days. I mean,
Who's paying for this?
I will not agree to an extension beyond 30. I'm not going to waive the time constraints for more than 30 days. A survey can certainly be done in that period of
okay,
time.
I have a question about,
go ahead.
this was looked over by Mr. Hurwitz and we're not accepting what he,
No.
we're not.
Because apparently,
So
he works for
apparent-
the town, and the town ain't happy.
But that doesn't make sense, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
It
doesn't,
makes sense.
when I talked to
He's
Mr.
an
Hurwitz
engineer.
one day, and I said something to him, he says, well, technically I may have a conflict because I'm the town engineer. And now they're still complaining, the town. Now, I'm gonna tell you right now.
Well, they're complaining
Mr.
about their own
Hurwitz,
employees.
Mr. Hurwitz I don't believe is a surveyor. He may have a planner's license, but I don't think he's a surveyor. And to be an independent, we don't even want to use his firm, because he actually works for a firm. He does not work for himself.
I think Mr. Howard can speak for himself.
Okay.
If there's a conflict with Mr. Hurwitz, it would be me who has the right to object, not the town. The town has hired Mr. Hurwitz, and I have no objection to what Mr. Hurwitz said.
Well, I have a problem with it, okay? And I'm the chairman. All right? I have a big problem with it.
Big problem with what?
With using him at all after the town sent us this letter. I want it totally independent. I don't want anybody in the audience to think anything went on, nothing. I want an independent person, period.
But respectfully, my issue is not with Mr. Harris.
I don't have an issue with
I
it.
just want to.
I just want an independent person.
Listen, hear me out. What I'm saying is, if we want to do an independent, that's one thing. I don't want anybody to believe that my concern is Mr. Harris.
Oh, I don't believe that.
It's not. So we're clear.
I don't
So
believe
everybody
that.
understands
You
that.
did say that.
Well, I'm gonna make sure that if you want to do an independent survey for a comfort level as a board, fine. But I want to be real clear that we're not doing it because I don't have confidence in Mr. Harris.
But Mr. Hurwitz is
I'm
not
just-
a licensed surveyor.
Listen to me. Listen.
Why don't we ask that question to Mr. Hurwitz?
Mr. Hurwitz, are you a licensed surveyor?
Yes.
You are. I still don't want to use it anyway, so I
I'll
don't
let
want
you
to
do
do
it.
it.
And just do it. But just don't. I don't like the innuendo or that my issue is with Mr. Harris. It is not.
Jerry,
Yes.
Frankie raised the question.
Who's paying?
paying for it?
Well, it'd have to come out of the escrow account. Just like if we ask for a traffic expert, that comes out of the escrow account too?
This is not going to be a full-blown survey of the whole property. This is mainly, from what I understand,
boundaries.
the rear of the property, where there's an issue or a potential issue.
Well, here's the thing, in order to get to the rear of the property, they have to measure it from the front of the property. I mean, that's so easy, because that's where there was a 20 feet discrepancy to begin with a year ago.
I'm not an expert surveyor. So.
Does this mean that the markers, too, will be restored?
No, there were never markers. There's nothing to be restored, there was never markers, from what I understand. But, is there any other discussion on it?
Yeah, I have additional discussion.
Go ahead, what is it?
I don't agree with what you said as to the logic. You're telling me that Mr. Harris is not independent. It's the town that is concerned about this, is what you tell me. Mr. Harris is the town engineer, the town surveyor. There is no conflict. He's representing them. The only conflict would be if I said it was a conflict. I do not. I have no objection to what Mr. Harris did and what he has said. In addition, the letter from the municipal attorney does not say anything. You're acting like the town's asking for this. All the letter from the municipal attorney said was they don't want their property being used under this application. We're not using it. We've removed our whatever from that parcel. We've changed the plan to be consistent with the survey says, what the surveyor did. So I don't see the necessity for a survey based on Mr. Murphy's letter, based on the fact that Mr. Hertz is a surveyor, he's the town's employee, and therefore he has said up to this point that he was satisfied with the procedure that was followed.
Well, I have a problem with it. I want an independent person total.
I don't have a problem with it. I think, how can we go against our own people? It's totally absurd.
Artist rendition.
I can't see that. It's a waste of town's money.
May I have a point of order, give some
No,
information?
this is between us.
That's still town's money.
It's very relevant to this discussion.
So it's a waste of time.
Go ahead, what's your question?
Your engineer or surveyor or whoever said there was 10 feet from the fence they're moving to the building. I don't agree with that. I think it's less than 10
This
feet.
is out of line.
It's not, listen.
Well, I mean, that's your opinion, and you could agree with Mr. Del Garcio to say there should be a survey that you disagree with it. But again, that survey was done by a surveyor. I certainly wouldn't disagree with it. And repeating myself for the 5th time, Mr. Harris at that time did not disagree with it.
I think if the board's gonna move forward tonight, we should make it very simple. If the majority of this board wants to bring a surveyor on board, a different surveyor for whatever reason, it should be done. A surveyor can be hired quickly. I would like to see something done and distributed prior to the next meeting.
Yes.
You can't wait.
I would agree.
This can't be continuing.
No. It's gotta be done, and there's no reason why a surveyor can't do that.
The next meeting is, I don't
No.
like the color of the paper, and the next meeting
No.
is, you want a
It's gotta be
tie.
done, circulated, Tom needs to look at it,
Right.
Mr. Gassion needs to look at it,
But I
and
think important here is that we cannot compromise, and Jerry, please don't interrupt me.
I won't interrupt.
Right. I don't wanna get into, that's your personal opinion. I wanna make sure it's clear for the record and for Mr. Harret's purposes as well, and the audience. This is not about Mr. Harret. This is about a comfort level of getting an independent survey. That's it. Please do not embellish anything.
I agree with that.
Jerry, I asked you not to say it.
I'm not gonna knock it, I'm just saying I
You
want it
did
done
it.
totally
You did.
separate, so I don't have, well, if, I didn't mean it that way.
No,
I just
okay.
wanted it separated,
Fine.
totally independent, so nobody could question anything.
That's fine, but it's, I just wanna clear that up. Thank you.
And I want it based on deeds only deeds, nothing else, because that's what you own, what's in the deeds, period.
Well, again, I'm not gonna give that, I'm not an expert in that. So I'm not gonna say.
And neither are you, Mr. Chairman.
Right.
someone
No,
can
but
work
deeds
with-
are deeds.
someone can work with Tom, clarify what needs to be done, look at
We're not,
what's been submitted.
I don't think we should exclude, to be honest with you. Excuse me.
We ask the public to be quiet.
Yes, everyone, please keep quiet, this is between the board, the attorney, and our attorney, that's it.
Private session.
All I'm asking is that we do not exclude Mr. Harris from the process. Have him still review it after it's
He-
complete.
Okay, you can review it by the other guy,
Yeah,
I have no problem with that.
absolutely.
Oh, I have no problem with that at all.
Okay, thank you.
It needs to move along, and there are enough surveyors out there. We can,
My concern is you call this to a vote as to whether or not a survey should be done by quote-unquote an independent surveyor. The fact that hypothetically a decision is made not to have a survey and accept the survey that my surveyor did and Mr. Harret's at that time approved, then the people who vote no, my concern is that they would have an improper attitude towards the rest of the application. I have that concern. So if we're going to have a vote, I would hope that the board would hear this without any
Thank you.
acrimony or result of the vote having been hypothetically not to have a survey.
I think
If
the
that
whole, well, I
makes
understand what you're
sense.
saying, I says, but I think the whole thing in this here is that if we vote for this application, we have to feel comfortable that there's no problems. That's what we have to do. And basically, I'm sure there's members that are not comfortable right now. Even with the surveys you provide, every time there's a survey, everything changes, calculated in the back. It'll have two figures. One is survey, one is deed. I mean, it's like how many times do you need two different figures?
Now, this is strictly for a comfort level. with
This is a
regard to
comfort
the-
level.
With regard to the back area there.
And I will go
Nothing to
along with
compare.
whatever the person has.
You have to.
I have to, like, exactly. But I want to get this done once and for all, so there's no more arguments. Because every time you turn around, there's another argument over this thing.
The argument has never come from my applicant.
No, it's never from your applicant, because your applicant's the one who's putting up the application. It comes from everybody else, including the public. Especially us. But that's how I want to, I'm trying to resolve this so everybody's satisfied once and for all. And it can't come back to haunt us with the town problems either.
Unless there's more discussion, I
The
think.
town fathers don't have input on a zoning board application.
Yes, but they have input on somebody using property that they feel is theirs. And they did not give permission to use their property.
Whether it's this applicant or not.
So once it's satisfied that it's not their property, that should end the whole headache.
I can tell you, in my history, I've certainly handled many applications where there was an encroachment on the setback, and I'll bet Mr. Rago has done the same thing, and there was never an issue from the municipality on those
Well,
applications.
they made an issue now.
Well, again, I'm gonna say it again. I agree with you, actually. I'm not making this, you use the wording, please not change it, Jerry. We said there's a, for a comfort level of the survey. That's it. I don't, please don't speak for me when you say, you know, the town fathers, that's not in my.
I'm not speaking
No,
for
I
you.
know, but you're making that statement. That's not in my decision-making process. Comfort level that I have a good, accurate survey, or we have 3 surveys that kind of bail each other out, that would even be more comfortable. You know, I respect the town fathers, but that's not how my decision-making process works. It goes on what's best for the application. That's it. Can we move forward?
Well, we got a motion, I believe a motion was made right up front to retain a surveyor to do a survey. To be done prior to the next meeting, distributed, and then we go from there and wrap this up.
Yes. You have a second? Seconded, motion made by Mr. Caruso, seconded by Mr. Mafucci. Clerk, call the roll.
Caruso,
Yes.
Giordano,
No.
Mafucci,
Yeah.
Montalbano.
Well, before I cast my vote on further cases, do we have to get a special surveyor? If we take the surveyor's report
Are
on
we
a
setting
different case, do
precedent?
we have to get a special request to have another surveyor?
You mean on another case?
Yes.
Well, this is the town that's
Well, we don't
subject.
know.
This is an unusual case.
They're sitting.
Every case is unusual, I'm just saying, all right, I'll vote yes then.
Smith,
Yes.
Milano,
Yes.
Von Gershner.
Yes.
One more?
I'm not saying that.
Now everyone's
7 votes. It's 7 votes, Jerry.
Yeah. 5, 6, 7. Yeah,
Oh,
7
six-
people
6-1,
voted.
yes.
6-1 is the vote.
6-1 is the vote, there's 7 votes.
Okay.
Yes.
So anyone in the audience, this
Count.
application is being adjourned till Thursday, November 5th, 2015. There will be no further notices either in the mail or in the newspaper. Now, may I see the attorney
So this is Dave, point of order, okay, the public, the objection's been here for many years. Can I ask you a question on the point of order?
what do you want to answer?
Huh? Well, at this case, I mean.
If it has anything to do with this case, no. The case is over, or adjourned.
Discuss as a matter,
You can't discuss it, only we can discuss it.
but it's not fair to the objectors who have been here. for
Mr.
almost a year.
Frantantoni, you're out of order. Now, who's the next person?
I believe we're listed as number 2.
Can I come over here for a second?
Absolutely.
Off the record. Okay. Bobby.
Yeah, I do. How long is it gonna take? Half hour at most.
You mind? So that way you can get him out of the way?
Well,
Because I don't want him to wait for you. I mean, I don't mind staying there, maybe some members stay. I will go with the, you want to keep it in rotation? All right, we'll keep it in rotation. Okay, all right, we'll hear you now. Gentlemen, anyone who did not get this agenda, if the case isn't on the agenda, it's not being heard tonight. It's that simple. Some people, I understand, got letters in the mail for a case that was not on our agenda, that they sent the notices out too early. So I would check next month to find out if it is on our agenda. Huh? You can either call, well, wait, where's Mr. Rago? Come here, Mr. Rago. He's got a problem. Mr. Rago, the cases that were notified, that were not on the agenda, explain to the person how we can find that. What's the, come on up, don't sit back there, come on. Gotcha. He still didn't? Okay, let me explain something to you. He's got to send new notices to you.
Yes, sir, yes, correct.
Okay, until you get to send new notices, we're not going to hear the case.
Okay, good, okay.
That's
It's not even on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So I've got a notice, but it's not on the agenda, so it's not going to be heard tonight.
Is this Berkeley Avenue?
No, it's Hornblower Avenue.
Anything that's not on the agenda, we're not hearing.
Okay, thank you very much.
So how do we find out it's on the agenda for next time?
Maybe next month.
That was just not being heard. Next month.
That's how it works.
How about, they're supposed to tell us, know when it's on the agenda for 27 I don't think that, I don't know. All right, we're doing number 2. CB 2005-11. If we don't have, you guys might stay in the certification. All we need is your members to stay. 4 to 5. I like 5. I like odd numbers. Okay. All right, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Joe Sordillo. I'm an attorney from McElroy, Deutsch, Mulvaney, and Carpenter. I'm here on the application for the property at 258, 260 Washington Avenue. That's block 8701, lot 10. And this is a continuation of the public hearing that we started back in August. At the August hearing, we presented testimony from our architect, identifying what the proposed building was to look like and what we were looking to renovate and add to the building. We also had some testimony from one of the principals of the applicant. And tonight we are presenting Mike Lanzafama, who's going to be testifying as our professional engineer and professional planner in connection with this application. This application is a site plan and with seeking site plan approval with variance relief. So we do have planning testimony to go in connection with that. There are a number of variances that we will be requesting, which including D variances, bulk variances, and parking variances. But I will allow Mr. Lanzafama to address all of the engineering and planning testimony. So,
Mr. Sordillo, if I could, for a moment, you were here last on August 6th.
yeah, August 6th when we first presented the application.
And just let me ask the board, that was 2 months ago. Does anyone want Mr. Sordillo to give a two-minute summary as to what happened 2 months ago, or are you comfortable with this?
A quick summary, 2 minutes would do.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, not a problem. We, at the initial meeting, we presented the application. We had our architect address the building. This is an existing building located at the property. We are looking to renovate it and add an additional floor to the rear of the building. We are looking for, this is for a mixed use with retail facing Washington Street, 2 retail spaces, and rental units, residential rental units fulfilling the remainder of the property. They are going to have a mixture of 1 and 2 bedroom units. We discussed that the elevation is 3 stories in the front of the building, 4 stories in the rear of the building. The rear of the property does decrease in elevation, which Mr. Lenzafama will testify to. We're looking to restore the existing brick and stone. We are going to redo, provide all the amenities for the property. It was discussed that this was the original town hall, and there was it was brought up that there is a stone that has the original township insignia on that we will restore to the best of our abilities and maintain. We discussed in depth the additional floor that we're proposing in the rear of the building, which is proposing to have 3 2-bedroom units on it. And we also discussed briefly the parking, and that we're adding additional parking to the site, including parking on underneath. We're looking to excavate and provide some additional parking underneath the structure. I think that's a 2-minute summary.
And the architect testified at that meeting, and the someone from the
yes, Whit Gary, one of the principals from the applicant.
Okay. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to present Mr. Lenzafama as a professional engineer and planner. If the board would like to hear his credentials.
He's been before us before.
Did you state, with regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Can you state
My
your
name is Michael Lanzafama. That's Lanzafama. I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor and planner, licensed in the state of New Jersey. I'm a principal with the firm of Casey & Keller Incorporated, 258 Main Street, Millburn, New Jersey. I hold a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil and Environmental Engineering from New Jersey Institute of Technology, and I've been licensed as a professional engineer and land surveyor since 1984, and as a professional planner since 1985. I've appeared before numerous boards throughout the state, including this one, in similar matters.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, just before I hand it over to Mr. Lenzafama, one thing I did forget in my summary was we did originally, over a year ago, file an application with this board seeking the same similar type of development, but with a number of more units. I think we had, at that point, we were proposing 16 residential units.
16 or 17.
Yeah, 17, I apologize. And then when we heard the board's concerns about the parking and the issues regarding the density, that's when we withdrew the application, redesigned it, and came back before the board with this new proposal with 13 residential units. And at that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Lenzafama.
The property in question, as Mr. Sodillo pointed out, is 258-260 Washington Avenue. It's tax lot 10 in block 8701. The property is approximately 11,396 square feet in size, has a 75-foot frontage, a little irregular in shape, 179 feet deep. The property is located in the BC zone, and the property is located on the eastern side of Washington Avenue, just south of Holmes and between Holmes and Academy. The property itself.
Mr. Lenzafama, are those the plans that the board has?
Yes, these are the plans that the board has. They should have the date of February 10th, 2015, prepared under my signature by my office. Washington Avenue, on what I'm looking at this moment, is sheet number 2 in your set of plans, which is the existing conditions map or title and topographic survey. At the bottom of the sheet is Washington Avenue. This particular property is what's referred to in zoning as a through lot, since Valley Street runs along the back side of the property. There is a significant grade differential of about 25 feet from Washington Avenue down to Valley Street. So between the through lot configuration and the significant topographic features, we had certain practical difficulties with the development of the property. There's the existing three-story element of the building, which fronts directly on Washington Avenue, is the rectangle that I'm highlighting at the moment on sheet number 2. To the rear of that is a roughly 40 by 80 foot section of the building that's currently 2.5-story concrete block that sits down a full story below the street. The proposal that we have at hand is to, and this has been colorized to help the board see what we're doing in the way of the development.
We need to
so
mark
we can
this
mark that as
A4 at the
A4
approach.
one, too.
Michelle, is that what you have? A4.
Yep. Okay. So what I've done is I've marked sheet 3, the site plan, with colorization as A4 with today's date and my initials. And as you can see, we've taken the existing structure and highlighted it in a beige tone. And you can see that the proposal is to basically take the front portion of the building, the lower level, and create 2 retail spaces, one of about 800 square feet, the other of about 610 square feet. Above that would be multiple stories of apartments, and to the rear, we are proposing to add a 3rd story onto the building that would create 3 stories of residential units for a total of 13 units. We would have 11 2-bedroom units and 2 1-bedroom units. To support the application with parking, we're proposing to create a parking garage in the rear of the building where we can place 3 cars. Further to the east, directly behind the building and with access to Valley, will be parking for 10 vehicles. There will be a handicap spot located in the northwest corner of the parking lot. A stair tower will be developed along the northern side of the building to provide for safe fire access to all the floors. Obviously, there will be an elevator in the building. There would be trash storage just to the northeast of that stair tower. And the net result of the improvements that we're proposing is actually a slight reduction in impervious coverage. As a result of the removal of some of the existing asphalt and concrete along the north side and rear of the building, as I said, we end up slightly reducing the impervious areas on the site. As part of our design concept, we're proposing to add shade tree and some hedges along the periphery of the development to help minimize the impacts of the parking area being in what's technically a front yard. This property would have 2 front yards. In addition, we are proposing a dry well to capture all of the roof water, so we're getting a further benefit from the development by reducing significantly the amount of runoff that currently comes off the property. As part of the application, we are also providing for some lighting on the site that will illuminate the parking area. The overall statistics of the property, the 13 dwelling units equates to a density of about 49.7 dwelling units per acre. The setbacks for the building, the front setback is basically directly on the property line, as is the back corner, the southeast corner of the rectangular front portion of the building. So technically there's no side yard at that point, and the building is right on the street line. The building is set some 72 feet back from Valley Street. We talked about the lot coverage of the building would slightly go up from 5,195 square feet, or 45.6% of the site, to 5,342 square feet, which is 46.9% of the site. The parking requirements under the residential site improvement standards require that we have 1.8 cars for each of the 1-bedroom apartments. and we have, excuse me, 2 cars for each of the 2-bedroom apartments, and the retail space requires 1 car per 200 square feet. So the total of the required number of parking spaces becomes 33. What we're proposing on the site is 13, so you're seeing a deviation of 20 vehicles. Now, keep in mind that this particular application is for a use variance. The BC zone, it was designed to primarily accommodate office space or adult education type facilities, things of that sort. However, this particular location along Washington Avenue, which is the bus route for bus number 13, provides an opportunity here to fill in and develop the property in a manner which, in my opinion, is more consistent with the eclectic nature of the neighborhood. Looking at, let's mark this as Exhibit A5.
Just indicate what it is, Mr. Alonso.
Sure, it's an aerial photograph taken from Bing Maps of the property as well as the surrounding area. And it was prepared through my office. And what I've done here is I've highlighted the subject property in yellow. You can see it right in the center of the image that I have before you. And starting from the far left-hand side, we have the Verizon property. You have Belleville High School immediately across the street with their parking area. And you have a variety of uses to the north. You have a funeral parlor, there's a barber shop, there's a State Farm real estate office. Many of these buildings have apartments on the 2nd floor. And then to the south, you have the Elks, you have a medical facility, you have a large apartment facility. This vacant lot that you see here is actually the site of a similar type use, another mixed-use building that was recently constructed on the site. So you can see that this blends nicely with the character of the neighborhood that exists in that area. The zoning, as I said, is in the BC zone was geared towards an office-type use. The office uses in this particular facility, if you took this building and renovated it into office space, you'd have over 13,000 square feet of office space. At a parking ratio of 1 car per 300, you have a parking demand of over 43 parking spaces. So I think the proposal that we are putting forward is actually less of a demand on the available parking in the area, especially with the fact that we are providing some parking. There is also parking available, as you can see, along Washington Avenue. There's metered parking on both sides of the street. I visited the site on about 3 or 4 occasions in the evening from about 6 to 7:30 p.m. to get a sense of what was available. Because when you look at mixed-use facilities, you have to consider the shared parking characteristics that occur between the commercial uses on the ground floor and the residential uses on the upper floor. For example, in the evening hours, the residential uses require full parking, 100%, whereas the retail type uses go down to about 5 or 10%, especially as the day progresses. So there, you have this symbiotic relationship between the retail spaces and the residential above. Keeping in mind that this type of use is exactly what the state is trying to put forward in its efforts to redevelop the more urban areas of the state where infrastructure already exists. That is sewer and water demands, mass transportation is readily available. You want to bring people back into the cities to revitalize the areas. So based upon this information, my argument would be to you that this site is particularly suited for this use, as we are proposing it. Its location along the main business corridor and access to bus routes, New Jersey Transit Route number 13, along Washington Avenue makes this an ideal location. The idea of blending business and residential opportunities create a means by which older downtown districts can remake themselves into attractive places for the community. Other purposes of the Land Use Act being advanced are aesthetics. Here you have an opportunity to revitalize this old structure that has some historic significance to the Township of Belleville. You have the opportunity to provide improved housing stock. You meet the state's master plan of improving existing properties where existing infrastructure exists. Finally, when we look at the purposes of the municipal land use law, they cite a number of specific purposes and goals. And by advancing one of these goals, you're meeting the positive criteria requirements. By advancing any one of these goals, you're meeting the positive criteria requirement stated within the municipal land use law for a D or use variance. And some of those items that are advanced are purpose G, to provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of housing options to meet the needs of the community. Item I, to promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangements. And P, to enable municipalities the flexibility to offer alternatives to traditional development in order to concentrate development in areas where growth has been accommodated. In addition to the positive criteria, there's also this enhanced burden of proof, where we have to talk about how this fits into the master plan. And there's a number of goals and objectives cited in your 2009 master plan. The first one, and I'm taking excerpts from the master plan, is to encourage a wide variety of housing types at a range of sale and rental levels, so that all of the residents of Belleville could be benefited. And number two, encourage a balance of land uses to include diversified residential areas, commercial areas to serve the residents of Belleville. And finally, number 12, to enhance community appearance and the visual environment by encouraging good design for the new and rehabilitated building. The final hurdle that we have to overcome is the negative criteria. And this is probably our most difficult situation for this particular project, because we're looking at a use and a density that seems to be over the top. And what we have to make and test ourselves against is, can this property support what we are proposing? The 1,410 square feet of retail space and 13 apartments. And the question becomes not so much as far as bulk, because I don't think the building is certainly not being expanded to the extent that would be onerous to the adjoining property owners. The front portion of the building, as you view it from the street, will remain unchanged. The setbacks for the building from the street and from its initial side setbacks will remain unchanged. It's only that additional floor that's being added to the back, and the only area to the back is the railroad and the other commercial properties, the large truck storage area, as well as some other commercial properties. So you're not seeing a significant impact with regard to the bulk of the building. But does the density, does the 13 apartments put a burden on the available parking? And based upon the fact that we're providing 13 parking spaces, and granted, 2 of the spaces are tandem, so technically they have to go to 1 apartment. So you're really looking at 12 apartments having at least 1 parking spot. And the fact that there is available parking in the evening hours along Washington Avenue, I think supports this particular application. You have a situation where you're reducing impervious area. You're taking a piece of property and has basically been an eyesore and a blight along the street, and here you are renovating it, bringing it back to its original character. We're preserving the brick and some of the other elements that the original building put forward in its original architecture. So in my opinion, I believe that we've met the test, that the statement that this is not going to have a substantial detriment on the municipality or its municipal land use law, or the municipal land use law, or the adjoining property owners, is a fair statement, that it will not have that substantial detriment. So therefore, we've met the hurdles. We've met the positive criteria by advancing some of those goals and objectives of the master plan, as well as the municipal land use law. The negative criteria, I think we've met. I think we can demonstrate that it's not going to have a substantial impact on the zone plan or the township as a whole. And I think there's certainly some real positives associated with this application. There are a number of bulk issues associated with this property. Specifically, you're talking about a through lot, so the parking in the back is technically parking in the front yard. The parking is also not set back a minimum of 5 feet as required by your ordinance. The parking stalls being proposed are 9 by 18, which are consistent with the residential site improvement standards. However, your ordinance requires 9 by 19 cars. We received letters from Mr. Hurwitz on both engineering and planning issues. I don't see any difficulties in meeting all of his requirements with regard to the engineering issues. I can certainly make some modifications to the parallel parking spaces to improve their accessibility. We could increase the size of the refuse area to make sure that we have adequate room for all of the tenants and the retail space. So, in my opinion, again, I feel that this application is a real positive for the municipality. I think it's a win-win for everybody, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions. I'm sure we can't wait.
Mr. Latham, before, if I can just ask one follow-up question, because I think I heard you say it, but I just want to make sure myself, is that while we know parking is one of the biggest potential negative impacts resulting of this development, but if the site was developed per permitted use as an office, the parking demand would actually be higher than what the demand is based upon the current application.
Absolutely, that's correct. It's 43 cars for an office building for this application. If you follow the letter of the law, the zoning ordinance, or the residential site improvement standards, it would be 33. However, when you look at that shared parking arrangement that you have between retail and residential, you usually can reduce that number by about 25%. So I think if we can safely say that we have, in this particular case, at least one car for every apartment, save one, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Thank you very much.
Questions of the board of the witness? Mr. Delano, I could tell.
Go back to...
Go back to the site plan? Sure. That one?
Yeah. Where did you say the refuge would be?
The refuse would be located just off, there's a rear entrance at the building. This is a staircase. It would be located in this area. Now, this could be expanded somewhat and maybe pulled down along the back side of the building to make sure we have...
How's it going to be collected?
It gets collected by a private carting firm.
Right.
They would come in back into position, and these would be carted out into the truck, and then you can't turn around on the site. It's just too narrow. You would have to back it up.
How many times a week, do you know?
That remains to be seen with a private carting firm. You could arrange that. It depends on how much refuse is generated. For 13 apartments, you're probably looking at twice a week.
Plus commercial.
Plus the commercial.
So, if you didn't put the addition on, how many apartments would you have?
You have 10.
And can I ask you a question on 10?
Yes, sir.
Not the 10, but I'm talking about the 3 apartments. How many are 2 bedrooms and how many are 1 if they were eliminated?
11. Right?
Well, the question is, of the 3 bedroom that would be, or excuse me, of the 3 apartments that would be eliminated in the addition, I believe they're all 2 bedroom.
All two bedrooms.
I believe so.
Are you gonna move that fence that's on the angle and put it on the property line?
Yes, the fence would be relocated to the property owners.
And the outside parking lot will be fenced off?
Yes, there'll be a fence along this common boundary between the two properties.
Now, I don't know if you would be able to answer this question or not, maybe the attorney might, but you had mentioned in your testimony that the residential and the commercial would share spaces. And at night, of course, the commercial would close and the residential would fill up. Do you know the hours of operation for your commercial use?
We don't have tenants yet. This is speculative at this point,
The
but
question
most
is the reason I
likely
asked.
for retail, you're probably looking at 9 or 10 a.m. to probably 5 or 6 a.m.
Well, the reason I ask is because in your testimony you stated that they would share spaces.
Correct. There would be, the retail space is only 1,400 square feet. They would utilize the on-street parking.
I agree, but in your testimony you stated that they would share.
Well, what I'm saying is that you get this symbiotic relationship between commercial uses. The employees, for example, that might come here could possibly use one of these spaces in the back while the apartments are vacant, while people are at work. And as they left, then that would be occupied by an apartment dweller. So there wouldn't necessarily be assigned parking spaces.
I was gonna say, they're not assigned spaces then.
No,
So
other than maybe
anybody
these
can go in
two,
there.
the tandem ones would have to be assigned, because they would go to one of the two-bedroom units most likely.
I don't see how. You have one apartment that would have a side.
Well, these garage spaces, most likely they would be premium, and there'd be an additional rent charge for that typically, so they would be taken to the
So, again, you know, I understand that, you know, in today's day and age with, you know, the demand of 2 spots, you call it 1.8, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's 2 spots, okay?
We rounded it up in the
Right.
town.
So my argument is that you know, in many applications, I'm sure you've been in many applications, that we don't get you parking exactly the way we want. You know, we might fall short by a certain percentage. But we fall short by 2/3.
Well, I think what you have to look at is the residential site improvement standards are more geared towards a suburban environment. In the more urban areas where mass transportation is readily available, say for example in Hoboken, in Jersey City, the parking requirement is only 0.65 cars per dwelling unit.
Right, and I'll go, and I hear you, but I'm gonna go back to it. Could you show me a .65 car?
No, the idea is because you average
So it's 2
it,
spots.
because you average it over the entire area. But I think to respond to your argument, I think from a practical point of view, I think if we can safely say that we are gonna have at least 1 parking space for every apartment, I think we're 1 short. I agree.
Not even that.
One.
You're not even assigned. You can't even tell me that apartment X has that parking spot. You can't. Because
Well, no.
somebody from the, somebody driving by can pull in there, somebody going to the store can pull in there. It's, you don't even have it, you know. And again, believe me, I'm sympathetic to, and some people would say, probably too sympathetic sometimes. Not everybody likes my opinion. So, to not having full parking, you know, 1 for 1 or 2 for, I kind of get that, but again, this is just my opinion, and others might feel differently. And the other thing is, you know, normally in parking, you know, it's not a great idea to have, you have 2 parallel.
We actually have
3 parallel.
But we're gonna adjust those, make them a little wider.
A and B, so you know as well as I know, and I'm sorry we don't want to talk about it, but during the winter months when we're plowing, so now we're further out from where we normally would be parking, and so, and then that trash person has to back up into cars that are further out on both sides, as well as they're backing out. So, and in my head, like I said, if you were at a 2/3 number, and believe me, people don't even, I know the man in the front row here wouldn't like to hear me say that, because 2/3 is not 100%. But you're at 1/3, and I must be honest with you, that's my biggest concern. And I don't understand why, to be quite frank with you, you know, you talk about revitalizing, right? And I get you, I'm on board with you. But you're not just revitalizing, you're adding to. And I understand the ROI, return on investment, I get it. But, you know, we have to decide when the return on investment is overburdensome when it comes to how much we're willing to flex. And that's all my thought.
All right. I'd like to just
Yeah.
respond.
Please.
You put out a lot.
I'm sorry.
Let's start with people driving in and utilizing the parking field that are not a resident or an employee. This can certainly be signed and monitored so that does not happen. People driving along utilizing the retail spaces, most likely not even be aware that the parking field is back here unless they did a complete loop. You know, this is a one-way going north, so you'd have to come all the way around and come down along the railroad tracks there. So I don't think that is a real concern. As far as the snow removal, we do have some area along that common boundary with the Elks where we could dispose of some of the snow. And there also is the ability to just instruct the snow removal company to cart it off-site. We've done that on a number of applications in urban environments.
I hear you.
And we have to pay for that.
And I hear you. But that's, you know, and then we have a great code enforcement office, but that's enforcement, you know, that's policing. And you know what happens.
I know, but in any event, you can't assume that all these negative things are going to happen. I
And
think
handicap is for the apartment building? Or
that would be for the apartment
it's
building.
not for the...
No, you have
the
two
commercial.
handicap spots that are located right along the street, and there's an at-grade entrance to the
Along
retail
the street?
space. Yes, there's two handicap parking spots that are dedicated right in front of the Elvis.
Yeah, but they're to individuals.
There's a sign, there's a handicap
Yeah,
parking
and
sign.
they're to whom though? They're to that building.
I don't
You
think, no,
can't use
you
them.
can't say
Yeah.
that there's.
Wait, you can't testify.
Okay.
You can't,
Well, just say
if you put up a
something else.
sign
Do it later.
that meets the ADA standards,
You can-
you cannot say that they're dedicated for one specific building on that site,
Well,
on that street.
I believe you're incorrect.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you why. I use a residential neighborhood, right? I have a handicap placard.
That's different. Residential is different.
Well, you know, I'm not a policeman, you are, but it's been my experience, and I could be wrong.
So this would be subject to Title 39 as well as the back area. So anybody who's not handicapped or parks in those areas would be subject to towing and fine, I assume.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if you can be able to answer this. Are the handicap spaces numbered? Are there placard numbers on the handicap spaces?
There are placards.
If there is a number on the sign, that means
It means you're dedicated.
if they're dedicated to a
I don't
handicapped person.
Yeah, that's just a thought.
Sure.
And if I may, just to address well before we go too far off the
Yeah.
subject, with regard to the assignment of parking and the concern about anyone using that, I did speak to the client, and it's something that we could, coming in here, knowing that it's very unlikely a customer is going to utilize or even know that the rear parking exists, we would agree as a condition of approval, if it's the board's suggestion, that we do have all the parking assigned, and that we could have a permit type system where the employees and the residents could share spark parking, but it would all be permit and all be regulated by the building, to avoid any some of that concern. I know it's still we'd still be deficient on the required number, but it would at least help.
My colleague has a question. Can you get from the back parking lot to the Washington Avenue?
you come in the building, and then you can take the elevator to the various corridors that bring you to the, yes. Yeah, it's all new construction. The whole building.
You can't do that
together.
now.
Can't do that now, no.
That's all I have, Chairman.
I have one, go first.
I have one question about the parking. Earlier, Mr. Lazafante, you gave the argument that in the evening time, some of the residential spillover could utilize Washington Avenue for parking. There's just maybe one problem there. At the last town council meeting, you're probably aware that just about 200 feet to the southwest of your building, there's a small college.
Right.
And the residents in that area at the last council meeting showed up in force complaining that the spillover from the college, that they can't find any parking for their own homes through 9, 10 p.m. most weekday evenings. So I'm just wondering, a lot of your thesis is based on the idea that there isn't any other demand for those parking spots on Washington Avenue, but the residents in that area, especially around the college, would argue with you that that parking is tied up through a good part of the evening by the students at that college. So I wonder, how
Well,
this is going to work out.
I did go out there a number of times. Granted, I had gone out initially in August, and I thought about that very question. So I went back in September, actually earlier this week, to see what the situation was. There were more cars occupying spots, but there were still spots open. There were even some spots open actually further down along Valley that were legal parking spaces that could be utilized. So there is the opportunity, and granted it's, you're talking about one of those tenants not being able to park. And if they have to find an area that may be a block or 2 or 3 away, that's not unusual in urban environments for people to have to do that. Yes, sir.
From the rear, you go into the building to get up the stairs, correct?
Correct.
Would that be open access or restricted?
Most likely it would be restricted by some kind of a buzzer, I would believe, by
Key
the
card or something?
swipe card or buzzer or something.
Okay. Sure. How does
Yeah, that's good.
What was you saying?
If it's restricted, how would someone from the back get to the front stores? If it's restricted?
Well, the idea was that you wouldn't have customers parking in the back. However, you might be able to make some kind of arrangement as a buzzer system that you could access the store, things of that sort can be done. There's a number of ways to deal with the grade differential and the difficulties attached to this property. This is not unusual for urban areas to have to deal with these issues.
Let's say somebody parks in the back and they want to go into one of the businesses on the avenue. Is there an entrance in the back of the parking lot to get?
If someone parks in the back and wants to frequent one of the other stores on the avenue, I don't think there's a way to do that.
No, the answer is no.
They would have to come up, I believe, along the front door.
Yeah, they'd have to go through. Well, they could come up through the corridor. I guess technically they could do it if they could get themselves in the building.
Any other questions by members of the board? All right, now I'll ask my question.
Go ahead, sir.
First thing, can you put the picture back up?
Sure.
Okay, now, I believe, where is your building?
Our building is right here?
That's your building.
Yes, sir.
Now, go across the street and go to the right, a little bit to the right, and I believe that's the college.
That is
Am I
correct.
correct, Mr. Milano?
Yeah, that's it.
That is the college.
Yep.
So how far would you say that is from your building?
Just directly across the street, maybe 100 feet.
100 feet, okay. So, like Mr. Shelton mentioned, there was a number of neighbors in force for last council meeting complaining about parking. Now, my question is this. Is it your experience, especially in an area like Washington Avenue, it's not like a mall, that most stores depend upon the business, usually operate during the day and the evening hours, depending, of course, upon the business. We're talking about a pizzeria, it's another story, okay? That they're not being utilized, usually. The stores and
The stores are not being used.
Okay. So now, you're short, because it says you have to have 33 parking spaces, of which 7 are for the 2 stores. Okay, so if you take the 7 off from the 2 stores, then it would bring you down to 26. If you eliminate the 3 2-bedrooms, because you want to make an addition, and say there's no addition made, and you eliminate the 3 2-bedrooms, now you're down to 20 parking spaces. Am I correct?
That is correct.
How many units, because now we're down to,
You're down
let's see,
to
we're down
10
to
units.
10 units, exactly.
You would have.
Would you be able to handle parking in the back then?
I believe we can handle parking for 13, so absolutely we can handle.
Well, you're
parking
saying
for
you
10.
can't, you're saying you can only handle for 12.
Well, I'm saying that the overflow would be accommodated either by parking on Valley or on Washington, and we're only talking about 1 vehicle, most likely.
Now, you said how many tandem place, how many tandem?
Just the one.
There's only 1 tandem.
One tandem situation.
Okay.
So in essence, you have 11 accessible vehicles, 12 accessible vehicles.
12 accessible vehicles, of which 10 are single, correct?
No, there's.
Or I'm not getting the right math.
Let's look at
I'm just
the
gonna ask.
site plan. You have 10 fully accessible parking spaces at the rear.
Right.
You have 3 in the garage. This one spot would have to go with the parking, with the car directly behind it, which would have to be assigned to one of the 2-bedroom cars. The one immediately adjacent to it could easily access through its own garage.
All right. Say that.
Well, I don't understand how you
Let's
say
take the
that.
garage off. Let's just say the parking spaces that are in the back, without the garage.
Okay. So
How many did you say you had?
10.
10. Okay. Grab Mr. Alonso.
I don't know why you say that, because a 1-bedroom means how many spots?
I know what the
It says
residential
one
site
car.
improvement standards say,
What
however,
does our
there-
ordinance say?
there's 2.
Okay, that's what I go by. Our
No, well,
ordinance.
actually, we're supposed to go by the residential site improvement standards.
I know you guys
and
keep
there's a
saying that,
section,
but get me 1.8 cars. It's 2, Mr. Yeah, Sharon, you can shake your head all you want. All right? It's 2. There is no such thing as a 1.8 car.
let me
Maybe
also
one's a
make.
compact.
Legally, the applicant's correct, and this came up in an earlier application, I just want to
Listen,
clarify.
I understand that, but
RSIS takes supremacy, but municipalities are able to adjust it downward if they need be, if
Right.
there's transportation.
right, but our ordinance does not adjust it downward, does it?
The ordinance range is 2, RSIS is
So,
1.8.
again, I'm stick to my position.
But there's a-
1.8 means 2.
But there-
Well,
and
let me-
there's
let me
another
answer something.
section in the residential site improvement standards under parking is when there is a mixed-use project and there's mass transportation available, the board has the ability to
Has
lower
that
that number
option.
even further.
You're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Okay. However, what I'm challenging you now is that you testified to our chairman is that you would have to get that 2-bedroom, those 2 spots, to a 2-bedroom. No, you don't. You can give it to a 1-bedroom
Okay.
because
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
get 2
The
spots.
logical thing
More-
would be
it's
to
more-
give it to them.
Right,
So-
it's
No,
more,
it's
logical.
It's more
It's
effective.
not even logical. It's 1.8. You
It's
still
whoever
give
wants
them
to
2
pay for
spots.
it is actually
That's my point. You're not giving them 1.8 spots. You're giving them 2 spots. Because a spot has a certain size criteria, does it not?
It does.
So whether you want to call it 0.8 of a spot, okay. What's the criteria, Mr. Chairman, at the size of a 0.8 spot? It's still the same. Is it not?
Yes.
We're not arguing that with you.
All right, so, yeah.
And I would concede.
You can go to more, you can reduce it, go to more 1-bedroom, right, and get closer to the parking requirement.
Unfortunately, sir, what happens if we do all 1-bedrooms, you're not meeting the demands of all the residents of Belleville. There are families.
So
there are
don't do
people that
respect, sir, are you familiar with them?
I grew up in Newark and I
Look, you know, and I've lived here very long. And I'll be the first one to tell you, a lot of people don't like to hear me say this. I'm all for development and redevelopment, okay? But I don't think it'd be fair to say that Belleville has a shortage of apartments supply. And I would challenge anyone to say whether we have a shortage. You wanna say, you know, some people have a different standard than others, you know, as far as what they wanna live in, a new one versus,
Right.
I'm with you.
It's all about
I'm
quality
with
of
you on
housing.
that. But to say we have a shortage, I don't, I would challenge that, somebody would have to show me, and as a realtor, I have to be full disclosure, as a realtor, I would challenge that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just ask...
Can I ask one question
Sure,
before we
absolutely.
go, since we got into this RSIS business?
Sure, no problem.
I want to ask you a question. Is there a requirement under RSIS for visitors?
It's built into the standard. It's built into, for example, the 2 parking spaces for
Right.
a 2-bedroom unit assumes about a half car is dedicated for a visitor. It's killing them, I can see that. Sorry.
It's okay, listen.
I didn't make a- I
You're
didn't
doing
make
your
up
job,
the standard.
and I respect you for that.
I
I'm
just
doing my job.
asked the question, to be honest, because I read somewhere where there
I'm
is.
done, I'm off.
Yeah, it's built into the number.
I'm done.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just ask a few
Sure,
follow-up questions.
sure, redirect question.
We're talking about, the requirements for what we're proposing, which is requiring use variance because we're looking to do some residential where residential is not permitted. But just going back to what Mr. Lenzapano testified previously with regard to what would be permitted would be a much higher requirement. So, Mr. Lenzapano, if you can really just address maybe the site itself, to even be able to develop it in any way, to make it usable, whether it's residential, commercial, no matter what it's going to be, there's going to be a parking deficit. And actually, and you correct me if I'm wrong if I'm saying it, but what we're proposing is a much lesser deficit than would be required. So it would even be more than 2/3 missing. It would be.
You know I'm not gonna let that fly.
But that's, okay, if you look at it from that perspective, besides, there's 2 ways to approve any variances. One is that you demonstrate that the property is particularly suited and advances the goals and objectives of the municipal land use. So the other one is it a hardship? Is the property really developable as it is zoned for? And when you get to this question of parking, you start to raise that question. Is it really developable as an office space if you have a parking demand of 43 plus cars? And the answer is no, that you would always have some type of a parking variance, no matter how this property were developed, even if it wasn't added to.
But can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Wasn't that building always an office building?
It was.
It was an office building for 100 years and now was a problem?
Well, there's a whole different mindset about parking and how people visit
What
their
was the
sites.
parking demand, Mr. Cashion, back in 1955?
Oh, that's neat.
But because, just like him, I happen to have that ordinance at home. I didn't read it, but
But I believe in 1955, Mr. Gassion was only about 15 years old.
14.
so we have to really, I'm only saying your point is that, I would have to go back and see what was required back then.
Right.
He's citing present day requirements.
Well, yeah, and the point though being,
This would be-
anything that gets developed has to be certain day compliant. You can't look back at the old
Right, but
office
it would be
standards.
known as a pre-existing.
Well,
condition.
no, it's been abandoned. The building's basically empty. It's been abandoned. So any application to the planning board for development of that particular property as an office building would have to see the planning board.
Well, wait a minute, why would we have to see that because it's a pre-existing use?
Well, he's saying it's abandoned.
Because it's abandoned. It's vacant.
A vacant, I don't believe comes under abandonment.
It's a year, correct?
It's 2 years.
Well, there has to be, from what I understand, you have to have it.
It's very fact sensitive, Mr. Chairman.
But I get your point.
There has to be an intent.
That's my point, the intent.
It's
Correct.
a mixed bag as far
But
as.
it's my testimony that it's a benefit, that we develop it as a mixed use, in my opinion, makes more sense than the way it's been done. Well, that's the
Yeah, I
crux of my
respect- I
argument,
respect
whether,
your opinion.
and the question that you have to wrestle with is it two things? And do we have to make some adjustment in either the number of units, the number of bedrooms, the retail space, or something
That's up to
that makes the board feel comfortable with this application? So the threshold question is the use appropriate? And then the second question is the density. So those are the two questions that you really have to wrestle with.
Probably the first agreement that I have, well,
There we go.
Are there any other questions by members of the board? I will now open it to the public to ask questions based on testimony given. Mr. Frantantoni, name and address, please.
This is Frank Antoni, 129 Mount Prospect. Sir, before we go any further, I think one of your board members, Mr. Caruso, asked me a question. He may be confused. On the picture you have up now, the backyard,
Yeah.
you have outlined in bold green, right?
Right there.
And then there's another lighter green angle on the right side.
Right. The
Right.
darker green represents a shrub or a hedge, the lighter green represents lawn panel.
Right. But your property in the back is not rectangular.
It is not. See this
Right.
line that runs right through here?
Exactly.
That's it right there.
The
So it
reason
comes
I brought up is Mr. Caruso asked you if you were going to move the fence to the property line. The fence is on an angle because the property is on an angle, correct?
The fence, well, the fence location now, the last time I drove past, it looks like the fence has been pushed all the way over. It looks like it's encroaching on the property.
Your rear property line is not parallel.
It's not perpendicular to the
Right,
street.
the one southern line is
No
on
dispute
an
there.
angle.
You don't want to get into a surveying question.
I've got a lot of education like that in the past year. Also, you said there's going to be a slight reduction in impervious coverage.
That is
Could you
correct.
tell me how you're going to achieve that?
think about
By removing some of the asphalt and concrete. If you look at the existing structure, this area immediately to the north of the building is all concrete. That's all going to be removed and lawn panel placed, as well as this area through the south, along the south side of the building. All that concrete is coming out and then lawn panel.
So lawn panel, grass?
Grass,
You
yes.
say lawn panel, going to be
Yes.
grass?
Yes.
It's going to be next.
I hope so.
You then said you'll be reducing the runoff by installing a dry well.
Correct.
Where will the dry well be installed?
If you refer to sheet number 4, I believe it is, on the set of plans, we're proposing a series of 3 dry wells. In the middle of the parking lot, the roof water would connect to the dry wells, and there would be an overflow that would come down and connect to the existing storm sewer system in the valley.
Underground?
Underground, everything would be underground. You wouldn't see it at all.
You would be putting a one-side pipe.
They're dry wells. They're 8-foot diameter precast concrete tanks that are installed with crushed stone around them, and that would allow the water to be
Would there
absorbed.
be a leader connecting to our storm sewer?
There would be, the roof leaders from the building would connect to the dry wells. And if the dry wells filled up to a point where the ground could no longer handle the runoff, it would overflow and that would connect to the storm sewer out in the valley.
And why are we going all the way north?
Because that's the only place the storm sewer is.
There's no storm sewer in the middle of Valley Street?
No, there's not.
None. Okay. Now, you said you visited the site several times between 6 p.m. and 7:30 p.m.
Correct.
Is that correct? Have you ever visited the site during the day?
Several times.
On what days?
Usually during the week, I don't remember exactly what days. When we first got involved with the project, we came to the site a number of times to look at it with the new purchaser, to meet him, to walk the area, walk the neighborhood, we do that typically. And then when we performed our survey, we were there during the daylight hours.
Now, let's get to the shared parking. Are you, the retail is normally, I think you said 9 to 6, 9 to 5 to 6. And most people work during the day. Is that your
That's the
view?
That's the thought pattern and the models that have been developed by the Urban Land Institute and the ITE with regard to the shared parking concept.
Would you agree the average although even my own kid works various hours, but the average work week is Monday through Friday.
Correct.
I was in retail for 15 years, and I'm a merchant for 50 years on Washington Avenue. The busiest day, I don't know if you agree with me, for retail and shopping is Saturday.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, what happens on Saturday? When all the people are home and it's the busiest retail?
Well, the reason that the retail space is so busy is because the people who live in the residential areas are out and about, driving around. So you still get that symbiotic relationship between residential and retail.
You don't see these people relaxing on Saturday and the business having the busiest shopping day of the week?
Well, that's why, in my opinion, the retail space is only 1,400 square feet, two stores possibly, is going to be basically utilized by people that were parking on Washington Avenue or along some of the major arteries or coming via bus routes. So I don't believe that the fact that there is a more intense use for the retail on a Saturday is necessarily going to conflict with the available parking in the back section of the site.
For the record, I have a
Because
700 square foot business, and I'm killed on Saturday because there's no parking on my 700 square foot, half the size of that.
But our thought process is that the back parking is, unless you frequent that store on a regular basis and you know that parking lot is back there, you're not going to go seek that out because there's no direct access from that parking lot directly to the store other than through a back door, up an elevator and down a corridor. Most people like to park right in front of the store or right very close to the store and walk in. So I really don't think it's going to be a major issue for us.
And one other thing is the density. What is that in here clearly? What, you say the density was?
It's 13 dwelling units is what we're proposing.
Right. And I didn't, when the initial speaking, I didn't hear your square footage of your property.
11,795 square feet. Oh, you want to know the actual density per acre?
Yes.
It comes out to 49.7, which is, if you look at the BG zone for 20,000 square foot lots, it's 50 dwelling units per acre. So it would be very similar to the BG zone.
Right, but that's 49.7.
7.
Thank you.
0.7 units.
I'm killing him with the decimals.
He mentioned about the store. He didn't mention that. Oh, Joe Megler, 254 Washington Avenue. You mentioned about your store. Where are the employees going to park on that, on the avenue?
They could park on the avenue, or as I
Taking
said,
up some of that-
you might have some of the employees parking in the back during the day while the residents are.
But are you aware of that new building that's being constructed?
Yes.
Well, that and all the apartments is a fire zone. Right now, they're parking here, they let them get away with it. It's a fire zone.
That,
Can't
yes,
use
this,
that.
this
That's
area
a-
to the south is all fire zone, I agree.
I know.
I didn't consider
And
that.
right now, those two stores in that new building, they can't rent because there's no parking. There's not enough parking on
You can't
Washington
give
Avenue.
testimony, you can only
I know,
ask
you can't
questions.
tell that. I know that.
You can
But,
give testimony after.
He mentioned 2 stacked parking. He's got 3 stacked parking on this side too,
No,
in the
in
back.
fact,
They're not stacked, they're 3 separate parts, line,
Yeah.
front and back to the
they're
other.
called parallel parking.
Right. So it's not all that parking. You mentioned about doing what, taking all this concrete. How you gonna take it down? You can't come on our property. We don't want you on our property.
We don't plan on going on.
Okay,
We don't want you on our property.
okay. But you only got, now you're putting a doorway in the side, that's on the other guys. But you're gonna put a sidewalk on this side of the building, by our side.
Right here, no.
By our side.
No.
How are they gonna get in that doorway? Not that side. Yeah, there's a doorway on this side.
There's a doorway here.
No, on this side of the
There's a
building, you're
doorway.
putting a doorway. You didn't testify that, the other guy.
Why don't you let him answer the question first, so you're both on the
Let
same.
me check the architectural plans. There is no door on either side of the building. There's a man door and a garage door on the back side, or the west side of the building. I'm just checking the elevations from the architect. Joe, do you have that thing? I'm missing a sheet. The doorways that you're referring to, if you look on sheet A2 on the architectural plans, you're seeing doorways
Not there.
here and here, but those are access to balconies that are being proposed.
When the guy testified, he said there's gonna be a door on the side by the house.
There's no door on the side of
That's what he testified to. I know you weren't the guy that
that.
testified.
He was mistaken, because the elevations and the floor plans do not indicate any doorways on the outside of the building. There is, I believe, there is an existing door that's going to be eliminated.
There's no door on that side.
Well, we're showing a doorway here, unless this is reordered to different. There's a staircase and a door, according
Well, yeah,
to.
in fact, yeah.
That
Back
will
in
be
the corner,
eliminated.
there's a door.
Right, that will be eliminated.
But he said he was putting a doorway inside.
We're putting a doorway on this side. We're putting this stair
He said it on
tower.
that side.
So there'll be a door that comes out into the stair tower here and exits towards the rear of the parking lot, to the rear of the building, which is where
The
the
reason we're
parking.
saying we don't want you on our property is when they built that garage in the back, they come up on our property. If you look at the lawn in the back, it's got a cave in it. They never fixed it.
You're talking about this property
Yeah.
further to the south.
That's why we don't want no construction equipment on our side.
We didn't do that.
Well, you didn't get there yet. But
Good job.
you're not considering any employees, but you don't have as much parking as you're saying on Washington Avenue.
Any
Like the
other,
board said, there was a big issue at the last town meeting.
Thank you very much.
any other members of the public? Yes, name
Tom
and
Grolman,
I'm
163
sorry.
Valley Street.
Say that again, please.
Tom Grolman, Grolmond, 163 Valley Street.
Thank you.
You testified that there was parking spaces along Valley Street when you went by in the daytime. Were they on the east or west side of the street?
They were on the west side of the street. There are parking spaces located along, you can see them parked here, but there's some parking spaces further down.
Hold it, gotta change the schedule.
Okay, there's some parking along Valley. If you start at the Verizon, there's 10 parking spots that they park their trucks in. And then there's a couple of sections right through here. There's a residential property here in the back of the funeral home, where there's a couple of parking spaces. And actually, there's a handicap sign there as well. And then you come further down, you have the townhouses. They each have a parking garage and the ability to park in their driveway. And there's a couple of spots that you could fit in between.
You testified that there was open parking spaces.
Right, they
There
were
was available parking.
They were
One at a time, please.
They were open parking, in other words, they were available. And granted, I was there for only an hour and a half on 4 or 5
Right.
occasions. So I don't see, or I didn't see, some of the things that board members were talking about with regard to the adult school and that potential conflict. But when you're looking at a project of 13 rental spots, and you have the ability to park at least 12, you're not talking about a huge impact on the parking that's available along the street. You only really need one parking space, in my opinion. I know I'm getting rolling eyes back here, but that's our experience in these types of developments.
But I asked available parking, and you were telling me about 10 parking spaces on Verizon's parking lot. That's not available
Well, I was
parking.
trying to give you an
That's Verizon's parking.
I didn't say we were utilizing that, I said that's where they
Okay.
park their trucks.
I asked available
I
parking.
was trying to describe, to give the board members the benefit of what I've observed as I walk the area.
Okay. I live on the street, there's never available parking, and all the parking.
No testimony.
No testimony yet. Testimony's after.
Answer this question.
This is only based on questions, based on testimony. Any other member of the public wishes to question the applicant's witness based upon testimony given? Any further questions by members of the board? Any further witnesses?
Yes, just to address some of the issues that got brought up, another principal from the applicant would like to just address the board, see if we can clear up some of those questions.
No problem.
I'm presenting Peter Rosen.
Would you raise your right hand, please, Mr. Rosen, when you come on up? Why don't you come on up? With regard to this application, you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth.
Yes.
State your name, spell your last name, please.
Sure, it's Peter Rosens, B as in boy, R-O-S-E-N-S.
B-R-O-S.
E-N-S.
E-N-S, thank you.
Yeah, well, first, Mr. Brosens, can you please explain your position with the applicant and your relationship to this application?
Sure, I'm the owner of the building. When I bought this property 2 years ago, I had the idea that it was a broken down, dilapidated property, and I was going to help the town by fixing it up, and I was going to do a good deed by also making some money at 17 units. It's now gotten to the point where it's 13 units. I'm not going to make any money. And I don't really see, I guess I'd ask you guys, what do you envision, what is the ideal scenario here? You really can't build anything with the parking requirements you have.
May I?
And it's fine.
To be quite frank with you, it's not my job to give you what I believe would be best there, because then I couldn't keep an open mind. So respectfully, I understand the whole concept on return on investment, and I'm not saying I don't sympathize with you on that, but this board is not accustomed to giving, our opinions on it, because that's not keeping an open mind on other people's ideas. So I don't have a vision for it. If I was a principal like yourself, maybe I would. But I'll just say this: we're pretty open to ideas, and I think what you need to understand from our point of view is that, as you've heard, we've taken a fairly good amount of criticism by being flexible, if you will, and so maybe we might not be flexible enough for you to make the return on your investment. I'm just telling you my position is, and I'm very outspoken, as you can see by now. I just think that, again, like I said to your professional over there, is that, if you were 2/3 of the way there, as far as parking went, I'm willing to listen to his argument. I'm not as open-minded with his argument, because we're 1/3 of the way there. That was my argument. That was my position. So, and I support the idea of renovating what I believe is still a beautiful building. So the only thing that, as an investor, as yourself, is, if we're being honest with each other, investors very rarely do a town a favor by, I don't buy that concept. Respectfully, I don't buy
Well, sure, it's 17 units. I was gonna make this.
Yeah, but you're not doing us a favor.
Well, I think the town would benefit tremendously by having that building developed.
As being on the other side of the coin, I would tell you this. Do you believe you have any children in that building?
No.
No? 2 bedrooms?
Oh, children. Will there be children?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Sure. Well, is that a tax burden on the school system?
Yeah.
You're not doing me a favor. So
I mean,
I understand your point.
Okay, that's fine. I mean,
If I can, I'm sorry, I don't want to
So
interrupt you, but I understand where this conversation is going, and I don't think it's really appropriate for our application here, and I just
I'm
want
not accustomed to making
But I think
suggestions.
and I respect that and I understand that. I think more of what the question may be is understanding some of the board's concerns and the feedback we're getting. Is there potentially any conditions of approval that could make this application something that the board would be in favor of? That might be a better way of wording.
I'll ask my counsel.
Can I ask
Am I
a
allowed to
question?
say
Can I
my
ask
thought?
a question first of all?
Sure.
Before you bought this property, didn't you check out and find out what was allowed to be put there?
I did.
And did you know what was allowed to be put there? That it was only office?
I did. But I thought I was going to get a variance because of this. I thought I was going to get a variance. And it's been 2 years, and I realized it was more difficult than I thought. If this doesn't get approved, I know you're 2/3 of the way there, you could put maybe 5 or 6 units there.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying that I don't want to give my counsel mad.
Well, you gotta
it's
remember
fine.
something.
The site's going to stay vacant forever.
You gotta remember something. When he's saying 5 or 6 units. the
No, I'm
question
not
is how
saying
many-
that.
If he's saying that.
I'm not saying
I'm not saying that. He's saying that. How many bedrooms are we talking about then?
So, again, I'll tell you what I always tell applicants. If you don't succeed at first try again. And that's one of the things that many applicants have done. Until the board sees it to be a decent idea. What I think your concern is, and I agree with you, that when we think it might be appropriate, you might not be able to make as good of a profit as you thought. And I respect that, and I understand that. But that's not what I have to consider. That's not the only thing I must consider.
Of course, I mean, there's zero profit in this investment.
I can't.
No, I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad thing.
That's fine. It's it's not
Okay.
appropriate for the names application.
Okay. And anything else? I don't know if I helped them or not.
Any members of the public have a question of the applicant? Sir, they have a right to cross-examine.
Oh, sure.
And any other members of the board who have a question. Go ahead, Mr. Lee. Go ahead, Tom.
Richard Frantantoni. Sir, I don't remember, at the last meeting, I didn't get the name, the applicant, I believe it was you or your engineer, said, I wrote it down, he needs a new addition to make the project, that's the, instead of that second floor. So he needs a new addition to make the project financially viable. Is that correct?
I actually, I can address that, because I'm the one that stated on answer a question from the chairman.
It wasn't you.
No, it wasn't, but I know I said it at first, because the only reason I know is I stumbled through it when I first said it.
Wyndham Gary's in the emergency room tonight.
He's the acquisition director, and I believe, I have in my notes that the extra units were needed for financial reasons
And
to
it wasn't this
make a
gentleman.
return.
Yeah. So the question I had was him, how much of the project cost, because you're renovating the building, and the project cost of so much for renovation, but then that new addition, I asked, how much is that? That person says, I don't know, but I will have it for you at the next meeting.
Yeah, he's in a hospital.
Now, do we have the cost of the new construction?
No, we don't have any cost for constructions, and we're not presenting that
Yeah,
information at this time.
I want to stay away from costs, because we should not be dealing with making a buck or not making a buck. This is on these
Right.
hearings are based on other things.
I agree with you.
We all know the reality.
I know the law. The only reason I brought it up, because he brought it up.
I understand.
He said it was financially viable, so
The
then I
answer
asked
is,
for a
he doesn't
breakdown.
have it.
The other thing, you just said you bought a broken down abandoned building. Do you know the history of this building? The recent history?
Well, I used to know it was the city hall, and then I used to know the use, but
You know how long it was vacant?
my guess is around 5 years, but I'm not sure.
Do you know what was there before the 5 years?
It was a commercial use. I think that's some a clothing store maybe in the back. I'm not really sure what it is.
So you're not sure what was
If
there?
you don't know, it's fine to say you
Yeah.
don't know.
Mr. Frantantoni, you can't tell them unless you're giving testimony, so you have to wait for
I'm only asking them a question.
Right, and he said no.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions of the witness by members of the board or the public? No. Okay, any other questions, any other witnesses?
No other witnesses, but I would, if the chairman would give me 5 minutes to consult with my client and my professional to see if we maybe to
All
address.
right, I'll tell you what, we'll take a recess and reconvene at 10 to 9.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
As long as I have 4 members and 5 members.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the recess. I had a chance to speak with my client about the application. We heard the board's concerns. We understand the demand for parking. One thing that we would like to offer up as a potential condition of approval, if the board looks favorably on the application, is to remove the addition on the rear of the building, so it would have 3 less units, the 3 less 2-bedroom units. So the parking demand would be reduced significantly, and the remainder of the application will remain the same. All of the other terms will remain the same, and the other conditions that we discussed will remain the same.
Okay.
So you'd have 13 spaces for 10 residential units.
Correct.
Without the
Without the additional floor in the rear of the building. All else
But now
remain
you
the same.
said, I believe you said 3 of the parking spaces are in the garages, correct?
3 in the garage,
Hold it,
but
hold it, hold it.
There is no way. Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
three in the garage, but only 2 are associated with each other because of tandem, so it still can be split up into 2 separate.
And the back will have
units.
10 parking spaces
Right, so
in
it
the
still
parking
have,
lot.
yes.
Okay. Okay. I think we, Oh, we didn't ask for testimony yet from the public. Well, now we have testimony from the public, and now you have the new condition that he's coming up with. So anyone want to give testimony from the public? Mr. Fran Antoni.
Yes, Mr. Frank Antoni, 129 Mount Prospect Avenue.
Is this going to be, okay.
Testimony.
With regard to this application, do you swear the comment you're about to make shall be the truth?
I do.
And just for the record, state your name, please, and play the last name.
Vincent Frank Antoni, 129 Mount Prospect Avenue in Belleville.
Thank you.
He wants you to spell your last name.
It's okay.
You got it?
I got it.
Okay.
Long but simple, Fran Antoni.
Is there a Y at the end?
No, yes, we certainly like to see things renovated or built on Washington Avenue. And going back 35 years ago, I wrote a letter to the zoning board. I would agree on putting residential over retail, and I gave many reasons. Some of them because at night it's not a desolate area at all. However, what I want is within reason, with something that we can afford. The parking situation is horrendous, and about a year and a half ago I filed an appeal with the tax assessor on my property a block away because my business was a loss for 6 years, and I showed them my income tax returns. I lost thousands of dollars on my business every year. The 2 apartments paid the overhead, but my business was a negative for 5-6 years. And the main reason is parking. Now, in regards to parking on there, it's such a problem. We had signs, but they just put up, the town just put up new signs the past week saying, which was always the law, but they weren't enforcing it much there. You could park metered parking from 9 to 6, but 2-hour limit. So that's another burden on people who live in the area. Because, again, I happened to buy a house. My house was built in 1917, so I had no control. I inherited with no parking. But I have a problem every time I rent it. Beautiful apartments, they love the apartments, until they say, where do I park? Well, you can only park in the street. Thanks, nice apartment, but I have to look elsewhere. So it's definitely a problem if you don't have enough parking, and it destroys it. And then you push in the street. Now, you people were all sworn in. I believe Mr. Mafucci was just sworn in the last meeting. You took an oath to uphold the law. This is your zoning ordinance. I have it. I've always had them. I don't know if you people have it, if you've read it. But the purpose, in the first page, the purpose of the zoning ordinance is to regulate and restrict the height, number of stories, etc., open spaces, density of population. That's your charge. It also says that the comprehensive plan, the adoption of this comprehensive plan is designed for one or more of the following purposes, and there's 7. Number 1, it's your charge. You guys are in charge of the zoning. Number 1 is to lessen congestion in the street. Now, you've heard testimony. I was also at that meeting where about 25 to 40 people from the surrounding area, Van Houten and High Street, complaining. And now something new happened with the college. I believe that they said it's Monday and Wednesday night. They now have night classes. So these residents, if they don't come home before 5 o'clock, they're stuck. They have no parking in the entire area. This is right across the street. Like the good gentleman said, it's probably less than 100 feet away. You're going to have more congestion in the streets. The other one is, to number 6, is to prevent overcrowding of lands and buildings. Number 1, we're dealing with an existing building. I'm happy now agreed to eliminate the extra construction on there. And number 6 is to avoid undue concentration of population. And this is what you're charged with control. So I hope you take the law that you're charged to enforce, I hope you take it seriously. The other question, I'm glad he's not putting the the other addition on, but perhaps he can make them one-bedroom apartments, because like Mr. Valano says, the 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms. I've rented 45 years, I rent 1 bedrooms. One I had about 8 years ago, I rented to a lovely couple. 6 months after they moved in, they had a kid in a 1-bedroom apartment. A year and a half later, they had the second kid, and they lived there for 7 years in a 1-bedroom apartment. And they were nice people, I couldn't get them out. So the fallacy that 1-bedroom apartments don't prove kids, my 45 years of rental income is a fallacy. You know.
You were trying to get them out, is that what you were saying?
No, I couldn't get them out because when they moved in, they were a young couple.
No,
All right?
I'm just saying, were you trying to get them out, or you liked them because they were good tenants and you didn't want to get them out?
No, I wanted to get them out because the kids used to play in the laundromat.
Oh, in your laundromat?
Yes, the front of the building's a laundromat. But you know, I'm just trying to tell you that, again, for Mr. Valano says, it's a burden on us because 2 bedrooms definitely going to produce children. And you have the, right next door, 2 doors away or 3 doors away, is the Betsy Ross apartment. You got 1 bedroom in there. I'm very familiar with that building because I used to work for the previous owner doing repairs in there. You got 1-bedroom apartments in there with 5, 6 people living in them, and I know that because some of them are my customers in my laundromat. They walk down the block there. So you've got to think of what we're doing. Avoid the undue concentration of population, and again, lessen the congestion in the street. Also, there's a book which you should have read. It's by Glenn C. Hines, Esquire. It's called A Guide to Planning and Zoning. This should have been mandatory when you people were certified. I assume you all went to be certified. On page 1 of that book, it says an applicant is never entitled to a variance, and never is italicized, okay? An applicant must meet the specific criteria of the zoning ordinance and all that. And he would need to prove the special reason, the balance of benefits, and all the negative criteria here. So please keep these things in mind. And let's get Ms. He left, the architect, Mr. Bellafina, or whatever his name is. You know, he said they'd be in there in the day.
Still here.
I'm a Gumba. I'm Zafan.
Who is it?
Want to say that. The problem on Valley Street, all right, in the last 2 or 3 years has been so severely compacted, you can't get anywhere during the day. Right down the street from his building, just walk out to the corner of Academy, which is right here. This don't look that bad no more. Anybody wants after this meeting, I'll take you for coffee, but first we'll pass there. It's got to be about 50 dump trucks. On this corner, this garage no longer looks like that. It's loaded with dump trucks. They're probably working out. They work in those trucks 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. One night I left the Elks Club, I remember down there, 1 o'clock in the morning, they're still working on trucks. Not only the cars, like Gumba says, parked along Valley Street on the west side, all right? The streets, and the gentleman here, Mr. Meckler, will bring it up, he took some pictures. The entire grass area on the side of the railroad tracks, it's loaded from cars from Rutgers Street to Home Street, between the Bullet Hole and the other businesses that are there, and it's all day long. And Mr. Giordano's a policeman. He travels that way. I don't know if he sees it. It's every single day on that street. And it's illegal parking, but that's the demand for parking that is creating these people parking. And it's a mud hole because that's not paved. They park on that dirt area. When it rains or snows, they pull out of there. Valley Street is a mess on that entire stretch of land. So this thing that it's not a bad thing for the town. It is not accurate. And again, I ask you to go down and look. Those areas I'm saying look nothing like that right now. Right now you go down and look. And we thank God. I mean, that the dump trucks, the man's got a very successful business. But what's happening, it's compounding our parking problems. It's just
Is this on Academy you're talking about?
Yeah.
on Valley Street, Valley Street and Academy.
And Academy.
Yeah.
That's where that garage is on the corner.
Right.
The garage in the corner is now, not only is it a garage, right there it shows 2 or 3 little cars. See the white cars and the black cars there? Right here? This right now is loaded with dump trucks. I mean the big dump trucks. They park there, and you'll see them every day between 3 and 5. They go to Belleville Avenue and Dow Street to gas up. Thank God that guy's doing a good business too for gas. But they even tie up traffic because sometimes they're backed up on Belleville Avenue because all these trucks can't get in the gas station to gas up. And then they park there. This is bumper to bumper dump trucks, all right? And all along the railroad, on the rail, right up to the tracks, is cars parked all day long. Employees and all that. So it is a major, major problem, the parking in Belleville. And because of that problem, the value of our properties go down. Because I can't rent, 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, I had an apartment for rent. 5 months I couldn't rent it because the people loved the apartment they couldn't get. Then I had to lower the rent. From $835, I went down to, so let me go down to $795. Psychologically, it's under $800. And then I finally got a tenant. But that's it. But it's a very, very severe problem. So when you approve these things, like I say, I would like to see, I thank you for taking off the new construction. I just, one request, bring it down to 1-bedroom apartments. And again, if the 45 years owning properties, buying old junks and renovating them, you can make a profit. Maybe you're not going to make as much, but you can make a profit. And if you're not happy with that profit, go into a different business. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
May I just cross-examine really quickly?
Oh, yeah, wait, hold on. Cross-examine. Yes.
Just a very
I'm
couple
sorry,
quick
I'm
questions.
sorry.
Mr. Fran Cantoni, right?
Fran Cantoni.
I apologize. Are you a professional planner?
No, sir.
And did you say that you own apartments around this area?
A block away.
Okay, so you would be in competition with this potential development?
No, I have a laundromat. I don't know if he's going to put a laundromat.
Well, no, for renters, for residential renters. You would be in competition if this gets approved?
You mean it's another rental unit?
Yes.
If you want to consider that, yeah.
No further questions.
Any members of the board have any questions, Mr. Canatone? Any other member of the public has any question, Mr. Canatone?
I don't know.
You want to give testimony,
No question,
correct?
no question, yeah.
All right, you can give testimony now. Name and address.
Okay. Joe Maglio, 254 Washington Avenue. I've been a Hall and Bar chairman for the last 6 years. I got half my members coming in on Monday or Friday nights now because there's no parking up. You have more members than parking in the back.
Objection only because he has to be sworn in.
Yes.
Oh, I'm
Sworn
sorry.
in again?
I'm sorry.
With regard to this application, do you swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
And you already stated your name.
Joseph Maglio.
Yeah, is he close enough for everyone?
Eh?
Yeah, you've got a loud voice like me.
Yeah. But like I said, I've been bar chairman for 6 years. We don't, like they say, we don't have enough parking in the back either. We got more members than parking spots. They don't want to come down. They don't want to come down and park on the avenue because there's no spots. I got people come in, I love the hall. I know Jerry's been in the hall. Rich, I don't know if you were there.
Well, I haven't been there for a while.
Not for a while, but basically the same. We keep it, they come in, oh, it's nice, you keep it nice and clean. Where do you park? Street parking. Oh, that's no good, I ain't going. It's a big detriment to renting the hall. And we need that hall rented. And like I say, our hall rentals are half of what it was when I took over. This parking is getting worse, especially with these new buildings going up now. The fire zones, it's a big detriment, renting the hall.
You wanted to cross-examine
With lot of parking that Benny was.
You have to give them into evidence, they have to be marked into evidence,
Okay.
and who took the pictures?
I took the picture yesterday.
Okay.
Is it?
The same spot, you know.
Can you identify what the picture is of?
It's Valley Street.
Objector 1.
01 and 02. Because there's two pictures.
01 and 02, and you.
Valley Street, what's that? Going that way, what is it?
On North, I believe, because it's only a one-way, so it
Yeah,
have to be.
I don't know, it's north.
Let the,
And it was taken yesterday about 3 o'clock.
Both of them?
Both.
01 and 02? And they're both on
Can you
Valley
see him?
Valley Street?
It's basically the same picture, just that I got a whole car and a half a car on one side.
So you are half cars.
Hey, you know how you get satisfied?
There is a half a car.
Get a
stand corrected.
Now, this is on the railroad track side, correct?
Yes, that's between the street and the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
And then
But
when they put-
parking is allowed only on the left side.
Right.
They're parking off the street, actually, onto what would be a sidewalk, if there was a sidewalk.
But the thing is, when it rains and snows,
I
all the mud,
understand.
they bring it out on the road.
Pass it down.
That's why it's always muddy down there.
Actually, we can get one on one side, one on the other, because they're similar pictures. So let one go one way, one go the other. It's only off by maybe a quarter of a car.
No questions.
Did you want to see the picture, sir?
I did, thank you, Jim.
That's railroad track.
But they're off the street.
That's railroad
That's
track.
railroad track.
Yes. Is there,
What was he hollering about?
what, you have a question of him, sir? I'm just asking. No, okay. Does anybody have a question of the witness? Is there any other witnesses that wish to give testimony? I believe you wanted to say something before, but I couldn't let you talk. No, Mr. Grohan.
No, I'm satisfied with them eliminating the addition.
Huh? So is there any other member of the public who wishes to give testimony? None. All right, then, do you wish to sum up, sir?
I think, I don't want to repeat everything that we've already heard this evening. You know what the application is. We're looking for the requested variance relief with the conditions that we've offered up to the board, meaning that we will not include the addition over the rear of the property, which will eliminate 3 of the 2-bedroom units. And with regard to...
And the other units would stay as, I believe, what is it, 4 one-bedroom and 8 two-bedroom? No, wait, that's not right. What do we have? I'm sorry, 8 two-bedroom and 2 one-bedroom.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Correct.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And all the rest of the testimony that's been presented and discussed will remain the same, even though we're removing the 2 units, the same amount of parking will be provided, and so forth. So we believe we met the standards for the variances being requested, and we respectfully request the board grant our approval for our application. Thank you.
Gentlemen, your pleasure. We're now open for discussion.
I like the fact that they just eliminated construction.
I like that too.
Yeah, so.
That's 3 two-bedrooms, I believe. But I leave it up to the board, whatever your pleasure is. One way or the other.
Any other discussion?
Does he have to submit new plans?
No, because you're just eliminating what he was adding.
In the event the board approves the application, they will have to submit revised plans.
To the building.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
but not the
No, not
additions
for us.
eliminated.
Not for us.
Right.
That's right.
Wait,
Can
you have a question?
I say something, or is it too
No,
late?
it's
No,
closed.
we're,
No?
no.
Okay. Maintenance of property maintenance.
Everything else will remain the same, the dumpster, the same site, everything.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, it's up to
In the
you.
event,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, just to focus this, because we were here a while back, I had from the August meeting, again, in the event the board votes favorably, there would be awnings on the front facade that would still, on the Washington Avenue facade, that would still remain, planters on the front facade, to give it some color. The stone, the municipal building stone will be restored. You will comply with the consultant's reports. I believe Mr. Wasserman said that. The applicant will assign parking spaces, issue permits, whatever you want to do with regard to that, so there's an allocation of parking. And our other normal conditions.
I would like to ask
Mr. Chairman, I think we forgot the main one was that we're eliminating the...
Elimination of 3, yes.
And 3 two-bedrooms.
Yes.
Now, I want to ask our engineer one question. I believe it's the engineer. Oh, no, Mr. Di Lorenzo's here also. My question is, what is now the density now that we're down to 10?
We were at 49.7.
Yeah.
13.
And I know there's no residential allowed in this zone, but in the next zone, what?
BG zone.
Yeah, what is allowed there?
Depending with
38 to the acre.
38 to an acre? And what would this be now? We're down to 10, do you know?
38 to the acre.
38.
It was 40, it was almost 50.
49 plus.
And then
It's
now it's-
49 and change.
Yeah, now it's 38 and change.
In the BG zone, the zone next to it, I believe you get a lot more than that.
Right. It's bigger.
Right. No, not bigger, even on a smaller lot,
Oh, it's more, okay.
on mixed use.
Yes, I just asked that one question.
I'd like to
Like
make a
in
motion
50 units.
with the conditions listed.
Motion made by Mr. Smith to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Montalbano. With the conditions listed. You want to list the conditions, Mr.
We did it.
We just went over.
We just went over everything, right?
Not for me.
Okay, all right, just ask.
Maybe Joey was now.
Everybody knows what they're voting on, so.
Five affirmative votes will be required to
Yes.
grant this as a use variance.
Okay, clerk call the roll.
Caruso.
Yeah.
Giuliano.
No.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Mafucci.
No.
Delano.
No.
Del Garcia.
No. Denied.
Thank you for the board's time.
You're welcome.
There's another one too.
Michelle, when you get the vote. Good, Michelle.
Michelle with 2 L's. Michelle with 1 L, Michelle with 2 L's.
Liza with a Z.
Mike always says,
Michelle, when you get the vote count.
Go ahead.
Real close.
We're taking the 3 out.
You know what? Just a little bit. Take it out.
All right.
Mr. Gassion, you're up.
proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the council's name is Robert Gassion, the firm is Gassion Mako, 524 Union Avenue in Belleville. I represent the applicant in this matter, Armando Rojas, owner of 274-276 Belleville Avenue. He is seeking certification pursuant to New Jersey statutes annotated 4055D-68 and Belleville Ordinance 23-14.1 to continue to use the subject property as a 2-family and 1 commercial unit. Property was purchased by the applicant in July of 2006 with 2 residential units and a vacant commercial space on the street front. It's varied between 2 and 3 residential units historically. The Belleville tax records indicate that the property is assessed as a 3-family with a store since 1945. The letter from Mr. DiLorenzo reflects that information. Price and Lee records indicate that the property was used as a two-family with one commercial use from 1954 to 1972. The witness you'll hear from is Mr. Rojas, the owner of the property. I'm of the opinion that the application provides sufficient proof to allow the board to decide that it should be 2 residential units and 1 commercial unit. I'd like to call Mr. Rojas as my witness.
With regard to the notice publication, I have reviewed it, market A1, it was adequate, and we're able to proceed. Mr. Rojas, why don't you come on up? You could raise your right hand, please. With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Armando Rojas, R-O-J-A-S.
Thank you.
Mr. Rojas, what is your home address?
35 Rouse Street, Belleville, New Jersey.
And are you the owner of 274, 276 Belleville Avenue?
Yes, I am.
And for how long have you owned that property?
Since June 2006.
And what was the property? How was it comprised at the time you bought it?
It was vacant.
But the usage, how was the usage?
The usage was a 3-family with a commercial.
And at the present time, do you have 2 residential tenants in there?
Correct.
And did you do a little work to convert from 3 residential to 2 residential?
Yes, I did.
And you have the certificate of occupancy from Mr.
Yes.
DiLorenzo with regard to that?
Yes, I did.
And did you at one time rent the commercial section?
Yes, I did.
And did there come a time when that tenant left?
Yes.
And then did you rent it to another tenant?
Yes, I did.
And did that tenant go to see Mr. DiLorenzo?
Yes, he did.
And as a result of that, you then determined or become aware that you didn't have the legal right to use that space for a tenant?
That's correct.
And can you tell the board what it is that you're seeking approval to do today with regard to that certification?
Well, my understanding is the commercial side of it doesn't have a CO. That's what I was told, and I explained that to Mr. DiLorenzo. And I'm seeking for a certificate of occupancy for the commercial.
And have you reviewed the tax records that have been submitted to the board?
Yes, I have.
And do those tax records reflect, since 1945, that your property is being taxed as a 3-family plus 1 commercial?
Yes, it is.
And does the price and Lee reflect from 1954 to 1972, again, documentation submitted to the board, that it's a 2-family plus 1 commercial unit?
Yes.
And does the letter of Mr. DiLorenzo denying your ability to use this for 2 plus commercial reflect that it was always taxed since 1945 as 3 families plus 1 commercial unit?
Yes, it is.
I have no further questions.
My question is, based upon the testimony, you said you converted from 3 families to 2. Where did the conversion take place?
I didn't understand the question.
Well, in other words, I'm not trying to confuse you. I saw a picture.
Like were there 3 apartments
Originally, it was
upstairs,
3 apartments.
And you made them 2 bigger ones?
Yeah, no, it's just storage space now, the 3rd floor. So it's, the second floor uses, for space to put their stuff away.
That's it?
That's it.
But there used to be a tenant on the 3rd floor?
There was never a tenant, it was always a vacant.
Never a tenant when he had it. But
Was there
the
a kitchen
usage.
there?
Excuse me?
Was there a kitchen there or a bathroom up there?
It was, I think it was demoed. There was like a small apartment there, I'm gonna say studio apartment there.
Prior to
And it
that,
was-
Jack, I'm sorry.
Prior to that, he owned it, was dismantled.
It was dismantled.
Yeah, prior
Okay.
to that.
So you're only seeking the 2 upstairs
Correct.
stories, right?
Yes.
There's nobody on the 1st floor that's living there,
No,
right?
no, that's the
Okay.
commercial space.
And the commercial, you're not looking to convert, you want to keep it commercial?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I'm asking.
The
Anybody else have a question?
The two units are legal, it's just the store that's in question.
Yes, but he's not looking to convert the store into a 3rd family.
No. Just
Okay.
wanna keep it commercial.
Anybody else has questions of the applicant? Any members of the public have a question of the applicant? Do you wish to sum up, Mr. Gassion?
Very briefly.
I hope so.
Property was constructed prior to 1937. And at that time, a commercial use was permitted. The commercial use was prohibited after 1977. The tax records clearly reflect that since 1945, it's always had the commercial use there. The Price and Lee reflects 1952, 1974, the commercial use, plus 2 residential units. Obviously, at one time, there were 3 residential units, and that's the way it's been taxed. He's been paying taxes since 2006, it looks like, for 3 residential units plus a commercial use. He's only used it for 2 residential uses. So you got the tax records, the construction official's letter reflecting the tax record information, the Price and Lee, and I think all of us have lived in the town long enough to know that that is an old building, been there for a very long time, clearly reflects that the commercial use was on the first floor. I have nothing further. I thank the board for their time and attention.
No discussion.
Discussion on the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Motion made to approve by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Mr. Caruso. I'm confused, man. I'm confused enough. Clerk, call the roll.
Caruso.
Yes.
Giuliano.
Yes.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Mafucci.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. And we're all done by 9:30.
Again, thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, members. Thank you.
Oh, I wanted to give something out to everybody.
Wait, before you go any further, Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman, Lorenzo gave me this for you, the Belleville Fire Department, just.
Oh, that's over on Brighton.
Read it into the
I
record,
requested it, yes.
So I can put it on file.
All right, so we can put it on the record. This, Gerald Dogershow, that's not me. Dear Mr., no, he didn't put it.
Has nothing to do with you.
Oh, okay.
Know what you have.
This has to do, so you know, Ms. Quick, this has to do with Brighton Avenue. Dear Mr. Del Gercio, he'll get my name right sooner or later.
Sir.
We visited the site of the parking lot at 138 Brighton Avenue. The increase of 16 spaces.
Hold up. Take yours.
Let me know when you're ready. Okay, back to that. We visited the site of the parking lot at 138 Brighton Avenue. The increase of 16 spaces will not change any access that we already have. We cannot drive around the building as it is now. There already is parking against the rear of the building, and the fire escape is clear of any spaces below. And this is signed by William Hands, fire official for the Belleville Fire Department.
That should be circulated to the applicant and the board for
Yes.
this hearing.
Okay.
And
Mr. Gassion?
Mr. Gassion, we have something for you. Yeah, but I think we have to make a copy for the record.
I'm putting this on. Mr. Lorenzo should fax a copy of this to
Is
you.
there anything else, Madam Secretary? No. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Valano, seconded by Mr. Smith. All in favor? Aye. Aye. That's it. We're done.